All right, hello, wine drinking people. Today is Tuesday, the 20th of September, and we've already done so much drinking, man. We're weeks behind in the What I Drank Yesterdays for this month. We had like 4 events last week, and this is an event from 2 weeks ago. We're covering here. The Hollywood Wine Society puts on a tasting the first Tuesday of the month, and when these guys give me a call and tell me that they're doing something, I usually drop everything and Jerry Rosenthal, this was his tasting, and he told me like a week ago that it was going on at one of our Symphony of the Americas meetings, and I forgot, but he called me that day, and I said, I'm there, because, this was an interesting tasting. In addition to the Washington State wines that we had, we also had a sampling of 3 different wines made by Sebastiani Vineyards called Used Auto Parts, kind of aptly named because the theory behind this box was we have 3 different enclosures. We had the Stelvin enclosure, which is commonly referred to as the screw cap, which this is the greatest seal, in my opinion, for wine, short or long term. They've proven that in Australia. And they do use quite a bit of those screw caps in New Zealand as well. Then they had this kind of neo cork, which is a composite cork, which I do not like. I think these corks tend to, just like a plastic cork, the wine in them does not seem as fresh to me if you've had an older bottle that has this type of enclosure. And then there is another cork enclosure called Vino Seal, which, not a cork, it's a glass enclosure, which has a little plastic ring that actually does the seal. The glass does not impart any off flavors to the wine, and I've been a part of none of these tastings before, so this was one of the reasons I wanted to come to this event, just to see these first 3 wines, and it was evident that the screw cap wine was the freshest of the 3. Now, this was a 2002 vintage wine, so it wasn't that old, almost 10 years, but still the 2002 Stelvin enclosure had the most fruit. It was almost a unanimous decision with the entire group. The glass capsule maybe had a little bit less, and then the cork enclosure, or the neo cork enclosure, had the least amount of fruit, had the most amount of kind of oxidation note on the nose. So there you have it, folks. One for the record books, and I've got some 1997 Plumpjack where they did a screw cap in regular cork, which we were going to bust out at a later tasting. All right, well, on to the Washington State wines, and Jerry did an excellent job. In addition to providing some great wines from his cellar for this tasting, he also provided quite a bit of information about the Washington State wine industry, which goes back to the 19th century, about 1825. Probably German or Italian immigrants planted grapes up there in the Columbia and Walla Walla valleys, and this is an area that's really good for Bordeaux varietals, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. You see Syrah also creeping in there, and it's also an area that has exploded over the last just couple years. As of 2007, there was 500 wineries, and just a couple years later, today, 700 wineries, 200 wineries added to the list in the last few years, and just a plethora of really good wines. Of course, Chateau Ste. Michelle leads the way in terms of size. They're the biggest player by far, but a lot of great small producers, and it was nice to try a few new things. And it was also interesting because Jerry added a twist to this tasting. He put a California wine in the first 2 flights, and we did them blind just to see if we could identify them. And the first flight, probably, looking at the wines, we knew what the wines were. I had the Chester Kidder and the Pirouette and the Silver Oak in the past, so this should have been easy. You know what? I'm going to like the Silver Oak the least. So I just picked the wine that I like the least and said, that's the Silver Oak. Well, also, we're looking for that dill character, which you get from Silver Oak, and 2 of the wines had that. The Chester Kidder I just had. This is a really nice wine, sweet plum and currant berry fruits, nice tobacco spice, smooth and silky. And I picked this wine right. And the last 2 wines, the Pirouette and the Silver Oak, unfortunately, I mixed up, and the Silver Oak was my favorite wine on the flight. Really had the most concentration and the most complexity of this wine. It did have that characteristic dill that you get from Silver Oak and American Oak, and really nice bottle of wine, though. Very forward, but still, like I said, really rich. And the Pirouette was nice as well. Probably my least favorite wine in this flight, but they were all excellent wines, as was everything on the table. The second flight, I would not be duped again. And Opus One, one of my favorite wines, and of course, I definitely picked out this wine, no problem. And there was no hesitation in this. And there was a corked bottle on the flight, which made it much easier when you narrow it down to 2 of the 3. And it took me Washington State wines have kind of a sweeter fruit to them than Napa Valley wines do. Napa Valley wines, to me, tend to be a little drier, maybe just a touch more austere, but Opus One, very refined and elegant style of Cabernet Sauvignon, while a Cabernet blend. This wine had a lovely dried tobacco, mocha, and currant and cassis berry fruit, really well endowed with layers of earth and spice coming through on the finish there. Really refined, really elegant, but really big at the same time. Most excellent juice. One of the wines of the night for me. The DeLisle Harrison Hill, also excellent. And like I said, the feather was corked. The DeLisle was just a little bit of a Band-Aid character to that wine, maybe a little bit of medicinal note, but also had a lot of nice dried tobacco. Really smooth and classy wine, the 2005 DeLisle Harrison Hill. All right, well, Flight 4, the money wines. Col Solari 2005, Chateau Ste. Michelle and Antinori's joint venture. And this wine is a blend also. No Sangiovese in there, which most people would think. And then the Dubreuil Côte Bonneville 2005. And then the Leonetti Reserve 2005. It wasn't a fair fight, man. The Leonetti just beat the crap out of these two wines. It was big and had lots of everything. I think it was most tasters' wine of the evening. Exotic spices, tobacco, black pepper, a lot of earth, layered, ripe, dark currant and cherry fruit there. Really decadent bouquet. And like I said, twice as strong as almost anything on the table, and really dense and rich on the palate, but still balanced. This wine had wonderful freshness at the end. Just seemed to go on and on the finish. Killer juice, and we have some of this in the store, actually, 2007 vintage. But hey, you'll see all that at the end of this offer, because we're putting all the Oregon or all the Washington State wines that we have on this offer in the store. Hey, the Dubreuil was really nice, probably the best drinking wine of the night. Had a lot of toasty oak, a ripe currant, black cherry fruit, and a lot of freshness on the finish there as well. Some dark chocolate. Really the best drinking wine of the night. Most excellent juice, just not quite as big and over the top as the Leonetti Reserve. The Col Solari 2005, also most excellent. This was the money flight of the night. This wine had an incredible nose of dark plum and cherry fruit, dark spices, really sexy, silky, tanny feel on the tongue, but still really fresh and balanced. Excellent juice. The last flight of the night. I'm sorry, we did have some old Sauternes as well, but, this was kind of a letdown. I always want to go up in a wine tasting. And, these last three wines just did not measure up to the flight before. The Fidelitas Shampoo Vineyard, a very famous vineyard. Andrew Will makes a shampoo, which we have some Andrew Will stuff on this offer. And this is Leonetti 2007 and Va Piano 2007. Very good wines. But these were supposed to be the best wines made in Washington State. And to me, Leonetti Cabernet kind of lived up to the billing. These other wines really good. Maybe just because they're from small producers doesn't always mean the wines are better. All right, well, the Leonetti Cabernet Sauvignon had a lovely dried tobacco spice, smoky toasty oak nuance to that currant and cassis berry fruit, concentrated and rich on the nose, really big and chewy on the palate, that lovely sweet tobacco, soy and espresso showing through, some dark chocolate nuance there as well. Excellent juice. And like I said, the Va Piano and the Fidelitas Shampoo were really nice little wines, but really didn't measure up to the other stuff on the table. All right, well, that's what I had to drink a week ago at our Washington State tasting with the Hollywood Wine Society. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.